What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Figures of Sport. You're here with your host, Brandon, and we've got a lot to talk about today. I'm excited. I'm very, very excited for today's episode. Like I said, we've got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about some NBA, some MLB, and if you guys stay towards the later part of the episode, we're going to be talking about something for the first time since we brought the podcast back. And I'm very excited to jump into that. Um, first things first, we are going to talk about the NBA. Now, I know the NBA finals are done. Currently, the Summer League is very active. But the first thing I want to talk about is the Summer League, in fact. Cooper Flagg, the number one overall pick from the 2025 NBA draft, is done in Summer League after just 2 games. If you guys remember, the very first game, very hyped up, was between him and LeBron James Jr. or Bronny. Uh, and he had a little bit of a rough game. I believe he only had 10 points, 5 of 21 from the field or something like that. And but his second game, he had a very, very good performance against the San Antonio Spurs and the number 2 pick in Dylan Harper. So the Mavericks saw enough after that game, and they said, you know what? Take a seat. Go ahead, sit down. But yeah, so that's the first thing I wanted to talk about. And personally, I think that's a good idea for the Mavericks to sit their young star down. And you saw enough. You just kind of wanted him to get his feet wet. Obviously, the first game there was some jitters, but now after that second game, you kind of know the player you have, and they don't want to take any chances, which I completely understand and I agree with. So. But since the last episode has been posted, um, we saw the Oklahoma City Thunder lock up their big three. I know in one of the previous episodes we talked about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander getting his 4-year, $285 million contract. But since then, they have decided to lock up both Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren. Chet Holmgren signed a 5-year, $250 million contract, max rookie extension. And Jalen Williams signed a 5-year, I believe it was 287-ish million. I could be a little bit off on that number, but yeah, I mean, that's a choice. Now, personally, what I will say is I've seen some things online saying that Chet Holmgren's contract was an overpay, being that he's a guy who's only averaged 15 points this year and things like that. But my thing is Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams, both of their contracts aren't going to kind of affect their cap for a couple more years, and with that being said, I think that it was smart. OKC decided, let me not let these guys go hit free agency, although OKC can offer more money than anyone else, being that they are their free agents. But I think they didn't want their guys to hit free agency and either potentially leave or have the market rise for those prices, or the market is going to change in a couple of years, and those prices could be different. Maybe in 2 to 3 years from now, that instead of a $50 million yearly salary average for a Chet Holmgren, that becomes a $60 million salary average per year. So I think it was a smart idea for the Thunder to lock up their big three. And a lot of people were saying that they didn't learn from the Boston Celtics, but I think that's very, very a wrong way to think about things. Um, the Boston Celtics had a lot of players that were not part of their original group, such as a Drew Holiday, a Kristaps Porzingis, guys that they couldn't go over the cap to sign, right? OKC has players that they own their bird rights, and they are allowed to go over the cap for them to re-sign them. So I understand that while you kind of see the similarities in contract structure between some of the star players that Boston had and now has traded a couple of them compared to the Oklahoma City Thunder's way of doing things, but I think one, like I said, them having the ability to go over the cap to sign those guys is what allows them to do things a little bit differently. But then on top of that, I think Sam Presti, a guy who's been there for years now, over a decade, he has learned from his mistakes. Obviously, he traded James Harden. And actually, if you guys haven't seen it, one of uh, the podcast that I also watch is the Mind the Game podcast with LeBron James and Steve Nash. Now, they recently had on Kevin Durant, and something he said kind of stuck out to me, and it was that he believes that Oklahoma City wasn't necessarily ready for them to be as good as they were. They kind of accelerated the timeline a little bit, similar to how these Oklahoma City Thunder players have now done in this situation. But I think they handled things a lot differently. 11 years ago, they traded James Harden. Obviously, he went on to become one of the greatest players of all time. And now I think Sam Presti has learned from that, and he's now deciding to lock up his big three and understand that with the position this OKC Thunder team is uniquely in, they have so many draft picks in the next few drafts, so many first round draft picks, especially in the next few drafts, that they are a team that has shown they can develop talent. They are going to be able to kind of plug and play guys almost yearly. Obviously, we see guys like Cason Wallace who came in and was able to get some significant minutes in the finals alongside a Alex Caruso. Um, Obviously, they have guys like Sorber, who they just recently drafted this year. They have Nikola Topic, who don't please, I may have butchered that name, so don't come for me. But having him now and having some of these other first round picks that they have, you know, in the waiting for them to be, made, I think that this OKC team has a very unique opportunity to be able to move off of some of these guys like a Lou Dort, like an Isaiah Hardenstein in the future, to add players on these rookie contracts that are going to contribute. And OKC's development staff has done a great job, obviously, with their guys, with Chet, with Jalen Williams, and other guys. So I think it's been just it's a very unique opportunity for this Oklahoma City Thunder team to have. So that is why they were able to go out and lock up their three core players. So I do think that it's going to work out in their favor. But again, maybe in the long run, they may have to trade a Jalen Williams or a Chet Holmgren. But I think for the time being, in the next couple of years, they are trying to maximize their window and make sure that their core three players are happy and they're going to be playing together in Oklahoma City to try to, bring another championship to the city. Now, moving on, I don't want to say that this team is a dynasty. I think they are built very well, but I can't say that it's a dynasty because we haven't seen a team win a back-to-back championship since the Golden State Warriors did it about 6 or 7 years ago. Back, I believe it was 2017 and then 2018. And then obviously since then we've had a new champion almost every year. It went from the Toronto Raptors to the uh, the Los Angeles Lakers, and then obviously you had the Warriors, the Celtics, the Nuggets over the past few years. So it's very hard to say that this Oklahoma City team can become a dynasty. I think they have the build for it, being that they develop guys, they retain their guys, and they have now locked up their core main players. But the West has gotten better, this offseason. Obviously, Denver has gotten much better. The Clippers have gotten much better. You never know what a team like the Lakers can do because obviously, like we saw last year, no one expected a Luka Doncic trade, and then it happened out of nowhere. So, the Dallas Mavericks are a team that going forward, when fully healthy, as I've mentioned before, that they are a team that can very much compete for a championship and be successful. Being the team that they have, I mean, Cooper Flagg, Kyrie Irving, Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, PJ Washington, Anthony Davis, the Klay Thompson, like they have a team that can compete. So when you look at that Western Conference, it's going to be very, very tough for the Oklahoma City Thunder to repeat. But I think that having their core team together for the foreseeable future is going to be a great piece, a great starting point for them. towards building a potential dynasty. So I don't want to use that just yet, but like I said, I do think that this is a team that is definitely poised to make a run in the playoffs for the next few years. And I can't forget Houston too. So yeah, I think that it was very smart for OKC to lock these players up for the foreseeable future. I see the comments on a guy like Chet's contract, but you gotta know that OKC's thinking one step ahead. And listen, Sam Presti is probably, if not the best general manager in all of basketball. So I'm going to trust that he knows what he's doing, and he understands better than most. So moving forward, we're going to talk about LeBron James. Now, there is some rumors that LeBron James is potentially going to get traded. Now, I don't see it happening. I personally, I think that this might be LeBron James's last year in the NBA, and you know, I just don't know if I see that happening, him getting traded. Now, reports are saying that there was 4 teams that contacted the Los Angeles Lakers to just try to potentially gauge interest to see if LeBron James would be interested in going there. And I believe so. I believe the teams were the Dallas Mavericks, the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Los Angeles Clippers, and uh, the Golden State Warriors. So 4 teams that have potentially reached out to the Lakers to try to just see what their thoughts are on trading LeBron James. And now I don't know if I see that necessarily happening, but um, it's quite interesting to even think about that idea. Now I think he's going to end his career in Los Angeles, but again, you never know at this point. So the NBA is a crazy, crazy place. There's been so many things that we've not seen coming that a LeBron James trade wouldn't really surprise me. But I think a lot of this speculation has come from when he recently was at the Los Angeles Lakers Summer League game, and they asked him a question about the Lakers, and he said, "I have nothing to say." So, there's also been rumors, and again, we're not going to speculate too much because that's not what we do here. We like to go based on facts. But there's been speculation that supposedly the Lakers told Luka Doncic that the team was being sold, and they didn't tell LeBron. And there's a lot of things, there's a lot of rumors going out right now, and I just don't know what to believe. But I do think that if LeBron was to get traded, he's obviously going to only accept the trade because he does have a no trade clause in his contract that is going to send him to a contender, or it's going to be to a team that he really wants to play with that person. Now, like I said, out of those 4 teams, Cleveland, I can understand Cleveland being in that because he's from Cleveland. They want him to maybe he's the missing piece for them. Obviously, Cleveland's had a rough couple of years, being that a couple years ago they couldn't get past the Celtics, and then this past year getting knocked out by the Indiana Pacers. Maybe LeBron James can help be that piece that they're missing. And make a title run, especially with an Eastern Conference this year that's a little bit weakened. Now, the other 3 teams, one of them being Golden State, obviously we know how much he's loved playing with Steph Curry in All-Star games, the Olympics, things like that. I could see that happening. Um, the Dallas Mavericks, I think that's a team. Obviously, he was blindsided supposedly by the Anthony Davis trade. I could see him wanting to kind of be back with his guy, and then obviously reuniting with Kyrie Irving. And the team that I think shocked me the most being in that potential rumor was the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, I did not see them being involved in something like that at all, but personally, if I'm LeBron James, I don't think I'm leaving the Lakers for the Clippers. That's just my thoughts, but I think the other 3 teams are definitely teams that he would be willing to potentially waive that no trade clause for. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Like I said, I just personally, I think he's going to end his career with the Los Angeles Lakers. But again, it's the NBA. It's always crazy, and you never know. So we will stay tuned on that news and any updates. And you guys know you can always find those updates right here on the Figures of Sport podcast. And So we're going to move on. Next up, we're going to talk about the MLB. Obviously, today is Monday, July 14th, and tonight is the Home Run Derby. So this episode will be posted tomorrow, the 15th. It will be after the Home Run Derby, but I'm going to go out and I'm going to make my prediction here. Um, I think with the field being who it is, obviously we have Matt Olson, we have Cal Raleigh, we have James Wood, Junior Caminero, O'Neal Cruz. We have one moment. We have those three, and then we also have Brent Rooker. We have, sorry guys, let's pull this up for you in live time. We're going to make sure that we have all the names correct here. So, like I said, we have Matt Olson, we have Cal Raleigh, we have James Wood, we have Byron Buxton, we have O'Neal Cruz, Jazz Chisholm, Brent Rooker, and Junior Caminero. So that is the field, all 8 players that will be participating in the Home Run Derby. Matt Olson replaced Ronald Acuna Jr., and Matt Olson's at home, All-Star game being in Atlanta. Now, I'm going to say, like I said, this is coming out on Tuesday, but we are recording this on Monday, the day of the Home Run Derby. My bold prediction is that I'm going to say James Wood from the Washington Nationals will secure a home run derby victory. I don't know why. I have a gut feeling that says James Wood. But if I had to pick 3 guys that I think are very much in the running to win this year's home run derby, I'm going to say Junior Caminero, O'Neal Cruz, or James Wood. That is my thoughts. I think nonetheless, this can be a very, very exciting home run derby. Um, I've always loved the All Star festivities at All Star, time for the MLB. It is always a great, great time. I love the home run derby. I love the All Star game, and like I said, if I had to put you know, a bet on it, I'm gonna say James Wood. But like I said, I feel very good about 3 young stars in the MLB, them being O'Neal Cruz, Junior Caminero, and uh, James Wood as potential Derby winners tonight. Or if you guys are seeing this when it comes out on Tuesday, for yesterday. So I want you guys to do me a favor, comment below who you guys will think will win the All-Star game. Like I said, today, Monday, when I'm recording this, the Home Run Derby is tonight, but tomorrow, Tuesday night, is the actual All-Star game. I want your guys' thoughts. Who do you guys think will win the All-Star game, the American League or the National League? But now that we're talking about the All-Star game, that's a perfect segue into what I want to talk about. We're going to talk about some All-Star game selection drama because there's been a lot. In the last couple of days, we saw that guys like Trey Turner and Nicholas Castellanos have been very vocal on their thoughts on the All-Star game selections. Now, I guess I understand why maybe a guy like who I mentioned in our last video, Christopher Sanchez, that I thought he was personally snubbed, right? I think he's had an excellent season, and I thought he should have been named to the All-Star roster. But supposedly, with him being, unavailable to pitch in the All-Star game anyway, they chose to not even name him an All-Star. Now, I think that is a bit unfair. He pitched yesterday, or when you guys are seeing this, he pitched on Sunday. Um, you know, right before the All-Star break, and that kind of forced the MLB to not select him as a potential All-Star reserve, which again, I think he should have been named one from the jump. But now with so many guys that were, unavailable for the All-Star game, him not even being selected was definitely some news. And like I said, it definitely rubbed some of the twin or the Phillies players the wrong way. Trey Turner made some comments. Castellanos actually said that it is turning into the Savannah Bananas, which, if you guys don't know, the Savannah Bananas are a team that is kind of very similar to like the Harlem Globetrotters of baseball, basically. So, yeah, I mean, I was shocked by the decision to keep Sanchez off the roster, but yeah, like I said, I mean, there's been so many replacements, and again, I just, when it comes to all-star selections, obviously things like, contract discussions, in the off-season, like those are things that come into play where you selected for an all-star team, an all MLB team, like things like that can kind of help a player get the money that they're looking for. And, I'm sure that owners and general managers are ecstatic when some of these guys don't make all-star teams because of the fact that maybe they don't hit uh, that requirement in their contract, or that means because they didn't get that selection that they're now unable to maybe get to a certain number in the market, so things like that. And I do think that going forward, we will potentially start to see some, of a revamp to the All-Star game selections. The way that players are selected, I just think that there has to be something different, because we're going to get into some of the other players that were selected for the National League specifically. But, I just think that with all of this discussion this year, I think that, the MLB will kind of maybe need to sit down and start to look at things a little bit differently. Um, but first things first, we're going to talk about the AL replacements. So in our last episode, we kind of broke down a lot of the players that were included, selected as all-stars, reserves, and then some of the players that were, um, put onto the team as a replacement. But we have even more replacements, especially for the American League. A lot of guys opted out or suffered an injury and they're choosing to not participate, or they just kind of are fatigued, and want to look ahead to the All-Star post All-Star break. So some of the guys that we have selected now for the pitchers in the American League are Carlos Estevez from Kansas City. He's replacing Jacob deGrom. Casey Mize from the Detroit Tigers. He's replacing Garrett Crochet from the Red Sox. Drew Rasmussen from the Tampa Bay Rays. He's replacing Yusei Kikuchi from the Los Angeles Angels. Carlos Rodon from the Yankees is replacing his teammate Max Fried from the Yankees. Joe Ryan from the Minnesota Twins has replaced Hunter Brown, the pitcher from the Houston Astros. And as we look at the American League position player replacements, we have Junior Caminero replacing Alex Bregman from the Boston Red Sox. Maikel Garcia replacing Brandon Lowe. Zach McKinstry from Detroit. He's replacing Jeremy Pena, the shortstop from the Houston Astros. Isaac Paredes. He's replaced Jose Ramirez. And then we have Randy Arozarena from the Seattle Mariners, who is replacing his teammate, Julio Rodriguez. And then we're going to talk about the National League pitcher replacements, because there was no National League position players replaced after our last episode. So right now we just have a few pitchers that were replaced. Andrew Abbott from Cincinnati, he is replacing Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Trevor McGill from Milwaukee is replacing his teammate Freddie Peralta. Adrian Morejon from San Diego is replacing Zach Wheeler. David Peterson from the New York Mets has replaced Robbie Ray from the San Francisco Giants. Robert Suarez from San Diego has replaced Chris Sale. And this is where all the drama came in. Jacob Mizorowski from Milwaukee, the rookie pitcher who's only pitched in just 5 games, I believe it was 25 innings, has replaced Matthew Boyd from the Chicago Cubs. And like I said, I understand that if a pitcher pitched on a Saturday or a Sunday and they're going to be unable to pitch in Tuesday's game, I understand it wholeheartedly. I truly, truly do. But, I just think that, like I said, it takes away, like, Mizorowski has been great through his 5 games, but, you know, I don't know if he necessarily should have been named an all-star over some of the other guys that could have been named all-stars. So a lot of drama there. But what do you guys think? I want you guys to let me know in the comments. what do you guys think? Should Mizorowski have been selected? Should they have selected somebody else? Because again, I understand that if you're going to just name a person, like for example, a Christopher Sanchez, a guy who I've said has been very deserving of an All-Star selection this year, is it worth selecting him and then replacing him right away? I don't I don't know, but I think just being named an all-star has a certain honor to it. So I think with Mizorowski kind of just being selected by default because other guys pitched on Saturday or Sunday or were unable to pitch on Tuesday, I just think it's a little bit unfair to them. But again, I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Let me know in the comments. What do you guys think? Should the Miz have been selected or should they have opted for someone else? Excited to hear your guys' thoughts. Now, we're going to just get into some more general MLB talk. And the Tigers and the Dodgers are at the top of their respective leagues. And, some of the division leaders right now at the All-Star break are the Astros in the AL West, the Blue Jays in the AL East, the Tigers obviously in the AL Central, the Dodgers in the NL West, the Phillies in the NL East, and the Chicago Cubs in the NL Central. With the wild cards teams in the American League being the Yankees, the Red Sox, and the Mariners, and the NL wild card has the Brewers, the Mets, and the Padres. Um, Remember, they shifted the MLB playoff format a few years ago to now include 6 teams, 3 wildcard teams, and 3 division winners. So um, I'm I think this year there has been a lot of good baseball that we've seen, man. It's been really fun to watch. I think all of these teams here are teams that can definitely continue and win the division. Obviously, like I said in the AL wild card, the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Mariners. I think those 3 teams have been great, and they can definitely make a push to potentially win their division. I think the AL East is one of the best divisions in baseball, obviously, because the Yankees are competitive. The Blue Jays are extremely competitive. The Red Sox have been hot, winning. I believe their winning streak got to 10 games or maybe 11 games. I could be wrong, before the All-Star break. And, and then obviously the Tampa Bay Rays have been very competitive this year as well. That's an excellent division. The AL West with the Mariners and the Astros at the top, I think that the Mariners are a team that has an electric pitching staff, and their offense has been great behind Cal Raleigh and Arozarena and Julio Rodriguez and stuff like that. So you know then when we look at the NL wild card, the Brewers are close to the Cubs. Now the Cubs have had an excellent season, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the Cubs do at the trade deadline. Their offense has been electric, absolutely electric. Michael Busch, Seiya Suzuki, Kyle Tucker, PCA, Carson Kelly, like they have production from everywhere on the field. But I do think that they could always use another pitcher. So I'm excited to see what the Cubs do because I do think the Cubs can be the best team in the National League. I think they can definitely overtake that from the Dodgers, but we'll have to wait and see what happens at the trade deadline and see who makes some moves and obviously we'll talk about that. We'll have a trade deadline special and we'll kind of get into maybe how some of those names that are moved are going to move the needle for some of those acquiring teams. So I'm very excited, guys. Like I said, the home run derby is tonight, or when you guys see it, it was yesterday, and then tonight when you guys are watching this episode, the All-Star game is. So it's a great time for baseball right now. But quick shout out to the Chicago White Sox. They celebrated their 2005 championship, which was 20 years ago, obviously, bringing back a bunch of their '05 players. Mark Burley had his statue unveiled at the stadium this past weekend. Juan Uribe, Paul Konerko, so many players were there, and it brought back memories of when I was a kid watching that team. And of course, we have a replica World Series trophy from that year. One of my most prized possessions. Absolutely love this, from the Chicago White Sox. And like I said, Mark Burley had his statue unveiled. This is also one of my most prized possessions right here. This is a Mark Burley autographed baseball. And funny story about that, I went to the game when he pitched a no-hitter against the Texas Rangers. I believe it was 2007. Um, Sitting there with my pops, and we were behind home plate, had an amazing time there, and a fly ball comes our way, and my dad, being the great dad he is, made sure he got me a foul ball. And like I said, it turns out that Burley ended up throwing a no hitter, and it was one of the most incredible things that I've ever seen. Like I, for those who personally know me, you guys know that I love baseball. Baseball is my number one sport. I've played it for years, and so being able to have that in my collection is very meaningful to me. And you know, shout out to Mark Burley. He was great. He was a great person to meet as I got it autographed by him. It's been in that case for probably 15 years or more. So, yeah, I mean, one of my most prized possessions for sure. And it is truly an honor to see that he is one of the greatest pitchers in White Sox history. And he was represented so highly at the the stadium with his statue being unveiled. So shout out to the White Sox for that. Shout out to the '05 team. 20 years later, you guys are still one of, if not the best playoff runs I've ever seen in baseball. And they're highly disrespected by ESPN and some of these other news media outlets. So it's a shame. But don't let anybody else tell you different. That team was one of the most dominant playoff run teams in MLB history. Um, Now we're going to move on. And like I said, if you guys stayed to this part of the episode, thank you very much. You're already here. Might as well like and subscribe this video. Share it to your friends, to your family, to everybody you know, because we appreciate that here. And the more people that see this, don't be selfish. Share it. The more people that see this, the more people are informed, the more people are understanding of what's going on in sports, because that's my job, to inform you guys and give you guys a great unbiased opinion on what's going on in sports. So, we're going to talk about the NFL. Some news came out today that Juwan Jennings, wide receiver for the San Francisco 49ers, wants a new deal or to be traded. Now, I think that Juwan Jennings has been excellent for the 49ers over the last couple of years. Obviously, he was a huge, huge impact player for them during their Super Bowl a couple years ago against Kansas City that they ultimately lost. But he was a great performer. I mean, I believe he threw a touchdown and he caught a touchdown, which doesn't happen often, if you guys don't know. So, and now this marks consecutive seasons where the 49ers are having a wide receiver that is asking to be traded or wants a new big deal. So I think obviously with the 49ers, they've had some issues as of late, with the contract because they've had to pay a Brandon Ayuk. They did trade Debo Samuels, but they paid Brandon Ayuk. They paid Brock Purdy. They gave Trent Williams, I believe, another new deal as well, and now you have to pay Juwan Jennings. And when you know the best part about that, the way that team was built originally was that they had a Jimmy Garoppolo and then they moved to a Brock Purdy and had a rookie QB on a rookie contract, and um, they were able to pay all their star players. And now it's going to get tough financially for this 49ers team to kind of hold on to these guys. Obviously, like I said, you still have, Ayuk and Trent Williams, and now you paid Purdy and you got CMC and you got all these other guys. And financially, the 49ers are running into some issues. So it's going to be interesting to see. I do think that they'll retain him. I think they'll give him a bigger contract. Um, and we'll just have to see what kind of comes from this, because I think the power is definitely in the 49ers hands because of the way we saw kind of things unfold last year with the Brandon Ayuk situation. But I do think they'll end up retaining Juwan Jennings. I think he's a great player in that system, and he's produced at a very high level over the last couple of years. So and now with Deebo Samuel's gone, we can only imagine that his role is going to get bigger. But it will be interesting to see how they kind of move, because he supposedly has said that he would like to be traded, like I said, to a team that will pay him a bigger contract. So it'll be interesting to see. But speaking of contracts and wide receivers who wanted them, Garrett Wilson got paid today. 4 years, $130 million. He is now a top 5 paid receiver in the league. He has produced very consistent numbers since he's came into the league. Even with the quarterback turnover that the New York Jets have had over the last few years. And, he has been absolutely rock solid for that team. Very, very consistent year in and year out. And he's produced at a high level. And, he's a guy that no matter what, no matter who the quarterback is, he's going to go out there and give you his routine numbers. So, now, obviously, they had Devontae Adams last year, took away from Garrett Wilson's numbers a little bit. But now Devontae Adams is gone, and it's the Garrett Wilson show again. So, and now he's also going to be paired with his high school or his college quarterback in Justin Fields. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of dynamic is with this New York Jets team going forward. But what do you guys think? Was that a good deal for Garrett Wilson? Do you guys think he is a top receiver in the NFL? Let me know in the comments below. And the last thing, I kind of want to leave this open-ended question to the viewers. Through this offseason, I've seen a lot of discussion about the top 5 quarterbacks in the league, right? And I actually just recently finished the quarterback show, season 2 of the quarterback show on Netflix, which had Jared Goff and Kirk Cousins and Joe Burrow in the show. Now, I want to talk about who you guys think is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Now, I think it's very, very, clear that 1 through 4, however you guys want to line it up, is going to be Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and Lamar Jackson. Whether you want Lamar Jackson at 2 or 1 or 3 or 4, he's a top 5 quarterback, hands down. Joe Burrow is a top 5 quarterback, hands down. Josh Allen, top 5 quarterback, hands down. Patrick Mahomes, obviously a top 5 quarterback, hands down. But I want to know who you guys think is the 5th best quarterback in football, or rounds out that top 5. Maybe not 5. Maybe you guys think they're number 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. Maybe not 5, but I want to know your guys' thoughts. I've seen some people say that Jaden Daniels is a top 5 quarterback, that Jared Goff, Jalen Hurts. But just to stir up some drama, I want to see what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below who you guys think rounds out the top 5 of quarterbacks in the NFL. And on that note, we're going to call it an episode. So I want to say thank you guys for watching. It means a lot to me. Make sure you guys subscribe, like the video, follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok. Check out our shorts on YouTube. If you don't got time to watch a 30, 35, 40, 45-minute episode, check out the shorts. See some snippets, right? Get to know about what we do here and how we provide our information to you guys. Like I said, follow the Instagram, follow the TikTok, like the videos on Instagram, on TikTok, comment on them, comment on this video, subscribe to this video or to this channel, like this video, share this video with your friends, your family, your significant others, your cousin, anybody. Watch it with your dog. Just do us a favor and make sure that you're watching all the content that we're putting out, because it means the world to me. And we want to provide you guys with the best content. And I can only do that if you guys let me know what you guys think. So again, we appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you on the next episode.